TDS or TIS? How so-called derangement syndrome has infected both sides in the left-right paradigm. When loyalty to a man replaces accountability, bad things happen. Indeed, it does. Psalm 146 says, 146:3 says, "Do not put your trust in princes and mortal man who cannot save." And that was a sign I was actually going to put in my yard as my political statement during the last election cycle in 2024. But then we ended up moving, and so I didn't have a yard to put it in. So anyway, we'll get into this like we always do. This is Leo Hohmann, by the way. So I don't agree with all of it, but I agree with quite a bit of this. So here we go. I've never seen a period in my lifetime where deception and dueling narratives were quite so intense as they are today. I would agree. I would definitely agree. Whether it's the protests in Iran or the civil unrest in the US, you can literally find two polar opposite reports of what's going on, with online videos to support their case. It all depends on what they want to see. That's what everybody's seeing in whatever videos they watch. It's been much the same with the situation in Venezuela and before that, Gaza. I'll never forget telling my neighbor when Gaza started in October of 2023 about how horrible it was that they were just, outright slaughtering all the Palestinians. And she said, well, Israel warned them. So I guess that was okay then. Unbelievable. But it says here, like it says here, one person's freedom fighters, another person's terrorists, and the parts are interchangeable. The pressure to conform on either side of the dueling narratives is intensifying. Yep, they want you to pick a side. They're insisting on it. Absolutely insistent on it. That's not by accident. The globalists fear a united America more than anything else. Well, that's what this author believes, but I'm not so sure about that. I believe that the globalists fear the return of Jesus Christ more than most people realize, because they know he's coming. Some of them mock and scoff at it, but most of them, in the higher ups, they know. And that's what they're preparing for. They think that they can stop his return, but they're in for a big shock. So they love to drive wedges, and hence all the pressure points are designed to create a bifurcated society that can't agree on anything and becomes easily manipulated. That's very true. They also keep everybody in fear, which keeps everybody from thinking rationally. So those who refuse to be forced into either of the two sides will become the outcasts without a home, at least not an earthly home. Our home is in heaven if you have Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, that is. And that's where our allegiance lies. These folks are the real threats to the system because they judge right from wrong, constitutional from unconstitutional, which doesn't matter anymore, according to sources outside of the left-right paradigm. As long as you operate from within that paradigm, you are a threat to no one. Just like I pointed out the other day to the comment I got about the left-right on my website. I got accused of being a lefty, all because I didn't support shooting a protester in the face. So I'm a lefty because I don't support that. No accountability, no investigations, no inquiries of any kind. They threw the state of Minnesota out of the investigation. I mean, no accountability at all. And like the author says here, I'm not, and I've never been part of the left. I'm not either. My experience is as an individual who espouses principles like pro-life, pro-family, pro-defense, but anti-war. I would agree with that. If from that perspective you question any of the narratives coming out of the White House these days, the blowback is immediate and intense. Criticism is no longer allowed. That in itself should be cause for concern. Absolutely it should. If you post a critical assessment or even question the recent moves by the White House, either on the domestic front, with regard to its handling of protesters, or on its increasingly provocative foreign policy, you immediately get hit with an onslaught of accusations. They won't debate you on the facts. Instead, you'll receive some variation of the following memes. You must be a Democrat, or a Democrat is what they'll say. Or at least we don't have Kamala. Would you rather have Kamala? Or you're such a Trump hater. That's the one I've had the most. I'm such a Trump hater because I don't agree with his policies, his authoritarianism. He says the only thing restraining him is his morals. That's what he said last week. The Constitution doesn't restrain him. The Bible definitely doesn't restrain him. Only his so-called morals restrain him. Unbelievable. And then the author says, I did not vote for Trump, but the author says he voted for Trump 3 times. And then they just roll out their trusty old meme, don't look at the facts, look at the bigger picture, just trust the plan. Yeah, the Q-tards in action. Just trust the plan. So if they're really bold, they'll accuse you of having TDS, which stands for Trump Derangement Syndrome. This is a clever ploy because it makes the argument about all about one man and whether we are willing to genuflect or kneel at his feet, rather than about the people and whether some of the policies we see being pursued are in line with the Constitution and the leader's own campaign promises, which, he broke every one of them pretty much. These slogans, as juvenile as they may seem, are very effective at keeping the critics sidelined and marginalized. There's no longer any room for dissent or debate because if Trump said it, I believe it. That's a meme I put up here on Telegram earlier this week. So instead, we hear that if you don't trust Trump, you must be guilty of Trump derangement syndrome. So perhaps we need to reassess who it is that's suffering from the mental condition known as derangement. I'd like to make my case for an equally dangerous, equally contagious disease called Trump idolization syndrome, or TIS. The first step toward recovery is to admit that you have it. I suppose it comes down to the way we view our government and its leaders, generally, not just with regard to President Trump. Have they, whether Democrat or Republican, earned our trust over the decades? Have not both sides lied to us at pivotal points in history? Of course they have. If we answer these questions honestly, I think history shows that we should not start from a position of trust, but rather from a position of accountability. Accountability is a biblical principle. Trust in man, earthly kings, and systems is not. To hold a politician accountable for his promises is not derangement. To hold him up as an idol is. It's also a grave sin. Our president swore an oath to the Constitution, but when he asked last week if he feels that his actions are constrained by anything, he didn't name the Constitution, God, or anything outside of himself. He said the only thing that constrains him is his own personal morals and his own mind, which is sick and twisted, as it gets. Trusting in a leader with no accountability other than to himself is dangerous, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. I would go so far as to say it's Trump idolization syndrome. Exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. And in fact, Jesus Christ talked about this. I am come in my Father's name, and you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. There it is, John 5:43. And everyone's received Trump, but they haven't received Christ. They may profess it, but with all the hate they have in their hearts and in their speech, all the hate that comes out of their mouth, name calling and everything else, you can tell they don't have Christ in their hearts, that Trump has replaced him there. So if you suffer from TIS, you're unable to see what he's throwing right in your face. No matter how outrageous, you just can't see through the fog of the fake. It's strong delusion that God has sent. The precedent of invading a sovereign country and kidnapping its leader was nothing to get concerned about, even though the rationale for this draconian action kept changing, from drugs to restoring the Monroe Doctrine, or just taking another country's oil and maximizing its value for ourselves. Yeah, let's just steal it because we can. That's essentially what he's saying. He ran on ending the foreign wars. What happened to that, MAGA? Oh, there's a plan, right? Give me a break. He said we were going to stop the wars and end the uber expensive but highly profitable nation building projects. Then he embarked on a year of continued wealth and weapons transfers to Ukraine, renamed the Department of Defense the Department of War, and calls for increasing the funding of the War Department by 50%. Yes, the so-called peace president, talking about war all the time. Adding another $500 billion to an already bloated and unaudited Pentagon budget. They have failed every audit since 2001. This will continue to enrich the military-industrial complex, which is why you see old lady Lindsey Graham so frequently at Trump's side and on Fox News grinning from ear to ear as he congratulates the president on a job well done. He actually said he hasn't been able to sleep or eat much for the last 3 to 4 days because we haven't bombed Iran yet. I mean, that's how sick this man is, Lindsey Graham. We must close our eyes to all of this or we're Democrats and Trump haters, which, yep, that's exactly what they say all the time. Then you have this continued drive to annex the island of Greenland, either by buying it or sending the military in just to take it. Well, I told you why. The Club of Rome and their 10 regions. And Greenland is going to be part of the region of the United States. Representative Randy Fine introduced legislation this week that would authorize President Trump to acquire Greenland and place it on a path that would make it the 51st state. This despite the fact that the owner of Greenland, which is the nation of Denmark, said it's not for sale. Complete insanity. Unless you suffer from TIS, in which case it's part of the plan to make America safe and beef up our national security against those nasty Russians and Chinese. Never mind, we already have a really big space base over there on Greenland already. It used to be called Thule Air Force Base, located on the northwest coast of Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark under a defense agreement between Denmark and the U.S. And so that's not good enough. Leasing isn't good enough. We have to own it. That's what they're saying. Then you have threats to restart the war with Iran. It's difficult to determine exactly what's going on inside Iran because the internet's been shut off and you have propaganda coming in from both sides. I get that. And whether the recent uprisings have truly weakened Iran's Islamic regime or if that regime has managed to survive and fight for another day. But either way, I do believe Trump will attack that country again and probably very soon, guys. They've got all the aircraft already moving into place. Then you have Trump saying in the wide open he plans to send the U.S. military into Mexico to clean out the drug cartels. And Mexico is building up their defenses accordingly, along the border and in Mexico City. Cuba is being threatened with possible military action as well. Any country that does business with Russia is blackballed and hit with 500% tariffs. Russian oil tankers are commandeered in international waters. Amid all of the unleashed chaos, we are still supposed to sit back and just trust the plan. It'll all work out in the end for our freedom and prosperity, we're told. Just have faith. Right. Then you have Trump's romance with tech bros like Bill Gates, Larry Ellison, Sam Altman, Zuckerberg, and especially Elon Musk and Peter Thiel. Musk and Thiel have reportedly already started investing in Greenland and plan to transform it into a tech-based freedom city. Imagine that. 5 years ago, Gates gave us the death shots that we now know have harmed millions and killed millions of others. Instead of watching Gates being hauled off to jail, we had to watch him sitting in a seat of honor beside First Lady Melania at the White House. Talking about what? More shots. This is a man who we were told would be arrested, and suddenly he's in the White House breaking bread with the president and his wife. And yet we're told to trust. Astonishing indeed. We're told President Trump has sacrificed so much to be our leader. Oh, I've heard that one so many flippin' times. Never mind that his family has tripled its wealth through their investments in crypto since Trump re-entered the White House. Jacob Thompson at the Wine Press had more on this in his January 12th article, Scammer in Chief. Trump's crypto firm, World Liberty Financial, applies for bank charter to issue USD1 stablecoins. His family is to profit handsomely. We were told that Trump is pro-life, but he recently suggested he's ready to compromise on the Hyde Amendment. We were told that Trump would be for smaller government, that he would end the IRS and shut down the Department of Education, possibly the ATF as well. But the government footprint and its power over our lives has not decreased. If anything, its power has increased. Just look at ICE, for goodness sake. They're saying that ICE is immune to anything. They're above the law. J.D. Vance was very clear on that last week. And this, like it says right here, this was never more evident when Trump's Vice President J.D. Vance made the audacious claim last week that federal agents deployed in America's cities have absolute immunity from any crimes committed on the job. Translation, they operate above the law and you'd better fear them. That's exactly what they want. Jack, what happens when the Democrats return to power and regain control of these federal agents? Not that they will, because I believe we're at the end. We're at the end of it. We're at the end of everything, and the return of Jesus Christ is imminent. I truly don't believe there'll be another election or selection. So what? But if there were, what would happen then? Will those suffering from TIS still be cheering for the same hard-nosed tactics and absolute immunity? Lawlessness is lawlessness, and it shouldn't matter whether the boot on an American's neck is red or blue. It's time to get our priorities straight and return to the principles of the Constitution, which will never happen. So, like I said before, the Constitution is dead and buried, but TIS is definitely a dangerous disease. And this is the problem. This is the actual Trump derangement syndrome. They just believe everything Trump says without question. Trust the plan. All that nonsense. Oh, you must be a Trump hater, Johnny. No. I hate lawlessness. I hate evil. And that's what this president is, lawless and evil. He's the Antichrist, for goodness sake. I know a lot of you don't want to believe that or you don't believe it. That's fine. I've been on the record since 2018 saying it, and I'm not stopping now. But this is all about identity politics. And that's politics based on a particular identity like ethnicity, race, nationality, religion, but also political affiliation, which is what we're talking about here. The left-right paradigm. TDS or TAS, I'll let you guys decide. But to me, they're both deranged. And that will be it for now. God bless, take care. Johnny Storm, Don't Speak News.